The mug hit my chest before the greeting left my mouth. Hot liquid spilled down my blouse. A quick gasp escaped me more from the shock than the heat. Vanessa's hand shot back like she'd been burned, but her face stayed neutral. "Oh, sorry," she said already. Turning back to her seat, Roderick didn't look up. He was buttering a slice of toast. The room didn't go quiet. If anything, the laughter from the far end of the table got louder. Someone made a joke about morning wake-up calls. Someone else chuckled. I stood still. Coffee dripped down the buttons of my shirt. My sleeves clung to my arms. I blinked twice. My hands reached for the nearest napkin thin and printed with a fading floral pattern. I blotted slow, careful, as if pressing too hard might break the moment wide open. Vanessa reached for more toast. "We really should get sturdier mugs," she added. Not to me. I nodded once, then walked to the sideboard. My chair was still pulled out, untouched. Roderick poured himself another cup. His voice rose over the clatter of plates. "Hey, we're out of the cinnamon one." "Mom, did you buy more?" I didn't answer. I was focused on the napkin. I folded it. Once, twice. Then again. Damp brown stained, I slid it into my purse like a receipt I couldn't throw away. Back at the table, Vanessa leaned toward Roderick, whispering something I couldn't catch. He laughed with his mouth full. I stepped back toward the hallway. My blouse clung to my back, now cooling with each breath. In the kitchen, I peeled it off. Stood for a moment in front of the sink. The faucet squeaked when I turned it. I rinsed the stain, watched the water turn pale brown, then clear. From the dining room, the sound of scraping plates. Vanessa's voice loud and easy. "We should get that realtor back, the one with the red hair. She said this place could go quick." Roderick's reply was muffled. Then laughter again. I dried the blouse with a dish towel, reached for another from the drawer. My fingers brushed something beneath it, thin plastic cold. I stopped, lifted the towel. Nothing. Just a grocery receipt. I let it be. They were still eating. I heard forks tapping ceramic. I looked at the table. My plate sat there full. The eggs had gone cold. I pulled out the chair but didn't sit. Instead, I walked back to the kitchen, reached for the sponge, wiped the counter again, though it was already clean. The napkin was still in my purse. I could feel its damp shape against the side pocket. Vanessa was talking about flights now. 3 nights should be enough, she said. We'll need space for everyone. Except, she didn't finish. I kept wiping the same spot on the counter, slow, steady. The sponge moved in circles, though the stain had already disappeared. Outside, a car door shut. Inside, I was still cleaning. The fork clattered before I touched it. Roderick's elbow had knocked it sideways while he leaned in toward Neil, his friend from the bank. "She had a whole cafe for 15 years, he said, spearing a piece of chicken. Then it just fizzled. She never adapted. Still thinks cash registers matter." Neil laughed. Vanessa smirked into her wine. I reached for the fork, placed it back beside the plate. My fingers didn't lift it again. Roderick kept going. "People like her didn't grow up with the internet. They don't get it. I tried to help her years ago. She wouldn't listen." Vanessa added, "And now, look where she is." No one looked at me. The room was warm, the kind of warmth that sits in your neck and makes your shirt stick. I kept my hand on the edge of the table, pressed down, not hard, just enough to feel the grain in the wood. Neil reached for the wine. "Still, this place is solid. You must have done something right." Roderick didn't miss a beat. "My father bought the house. The cafe, too. She managed it, sure, but financially, it was downhill after he died." Silence followed. Brief. Enough to feel heavy. I didn't speak. Instead, I moved my hand under the tablecloth into the side pocket of my cardigan. My thumb found the button by feel. Click. Soft. Quick. Covered by the sound of chairs shifting. Vanessa was serving dessert. Chocolate slices. I hadn't baked it. Store-bought. She called it just something easy. Roderick pushed his plate back. I mean, she doesn't even know how much the property's worth now. She just lives here. Neil gave a polite chuckle. Maybe it's time to modernize things. I picked up my napkin, placed it in my lap. My dinner sat cold. The mashed potatoes had dried around the edge. I used my fork to draw a line through them, then stopped. Neil left shortly after. Vanessa waved from the doorway. Roderick stayed back, scrolling on his phone, half listening to a podcast. I cleared the dishes without a word. The plates were heavier than I remembered, or maybe my arms were just tired. The recorder stayed in my pocket until I reached my room. I set it on the nightstand, plugged in the small black charger. The red light blinked twice, then held. Roderick walked past the hallway. I heard the door close. I sat on the edge of the bed. My knees cracked, but I didn't move. Outside, a dog barked, then silence. The napkin from the morning was still in my purse. The brown stain had dried into the fold. I left it there. The voice recorder glowed faintly in the dark. I turned it over once, then turned off the lamp. In the hallway, their laughter started again. Low, comfortable. I closed my eyes and listened. I paused at the bottom step when I heard my name. Their voices drifted from the kitchen, low, relaxed. I stayed still. Vanessa was laughing. I told her the pipes in the guest bathroom are acting up again. That bought us the whole weekend, Roderick replied. She didn't argue, didn't even ask where we were going, just nodded. Honestly, it's kind of sad. He snorted. Well, she's not great company anyway, always hovering quiet like that. I placed my hand on the hallway doorknob. Didn't turn it. Vanessa said I booked the cabin for 5. My parents, your sister, the kids. That's plenty. It's supposed to be fun, Roderick added. She wouldn't like it. No point dragging her along. Besides, she thinks we're staying home. Chairs scraped. The sound of mugs being rinsed. I backed up 2 steps. My slippers didn't make a sound. In my room, I closed the door with the softest pull. I sat down, looked at the carpet, then the dresser, then the closet. My body moved before I told it to. Second drawer, beneath the old tax folders, behind the box of postcards, a manila envelope, thick, labeled in my husband's handwriting, original deed, Cafe Plus, house. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened it. The paper had yellowed at the corners. I spread them out on the quilt. Our names, his signature, the notarized seal from 20 years ago. Then the amendment just mine filed the month after his funeral. I placed my palm flat over the final page. Held it there. The hallway creaked. A child's footsteps. A door shut. I reached for my phone, scrolled through the contacts, found the name. Martin Delgado, attorney. My finger hovered over call. I didn't press it. Instead, I leaned back against the pillow, the envelope still open on my lap. Outside, their car doors slammed. Laughter. Vanessa called for one of the kids. Roderick yelled from the driveway, "Don't forget the charger." I didn't move. The deed rested on my legs, still, heavy in its silence. The house grew quiet again. I placed the pages back inside slowly, tucked the envelope under a clean shirt at the back of the drawer. Then I folded the blanket over my legs, reached for the lamp, turned it off. The screen of my phone glowed in the dark, his name still there, the number still waiting. I closed it, set it down. I would wait. Just a little longer. I gripped the banister before I saw them. A woman's voice echoed up from the hallway, clipped professional too loud. Then Vanessa's reply. Yes, this is the main living area. We'd probably update the floors, tear out the cabinets, modernize the fixtures. She's had them for decades. Steps, Laughter. The sound of heels clicking across tile. I moved up one step just enough to see over the railing. The realtor carried a tablet and was scanning the walls. Vanessa walked behind her like she already owned the deed. "She's not here, is she?" the woman asked. Vanessa laughed. "She's around somewhere, but don't worry. She's old. Quiet. Doesn't use half the space." The woman nodded. "And the basement storage, mostly. Stuff from the cafe. She hasn't touched it in years." I didn't move. My hand tightened on the wood rail. White knuckles. Breath shallow. Roderick's voice came from the dining room. "We'd like to close before summer. If we time it right, we could put this toward the down payment and still have enough for the wedding trip." Vanessa added, "She won't fight it. She barely knows what's going on." I let go of the banister and turned. One of the drawers in the hallway cabinet behind me had slipped open just an inch. I stepped closer and eased it open farther. Inside a red file folder, thin but marked in clean black ink. "Trust, Reverend 2015. I took it, held it close, then shut the drawer without sound. Downstairs, the front door opened again. More voices. A neighbor's child. Roderick chatting with the realtor about property values. I walked back to my room folder pressed to my side. That evening after dinner, I waited until the house quieted. The TV murmured in their room. A game show. Loud laughter, fast dialogue. They never noticed when I moved. I pulled the trust document from its folder, laid it beside the original deed on my bed. Pages' worn edges curled slightly. I took my time copying each sheet. Printer slow, deliberate. Each sound sharp in the silence. Once finished, I placed the copies in a clean envelope. Marked it in pencil, copy A. Slid it under the lining of an old suitcase in the closet. The originals went into a sealed plastic sleeve. Then back into the red folder now taped shut. I locked that in the firebox beneath my sewing kit. No one looked in there. Outside, wind moved through the trees. A branch tapped against the window. I sat at my desk. Breathed. Felt the weight settle back into my shoulders. From the hallway, a faint laugh, Vanessa's. Confident. Pleased with herself. I didn't get up. Just listened, the desk lamp casting a soft circle over the blank notepad in front of me. He slid the papers toward me before I finished my toast. "Just a precaution, Mom. Legal stuff," Roderick said, smiling too quickly. "In case anything ever happens, you know it's to protect you." Vanessa stood behind him with a mug in hand. She didn't speak, just leaned on the counter, sipping slow. I wiped the crumbs from my fingers and took the stack. The pages were crisp, fresh from a printer. The font was larger than usual, the kind people think helps you trust it more. Roderick sat beside me. "There's a section about the property, but it's all standard. Power of attorney, asset transfer, consolidation." His voice softened. "It's just until we get things in order. You'll still be, comfortable." I flipped to the last page. His signature already there. Vanessa's too. I lifted the pen. My fingers didn't move. Instead, I ran my thumb along the bottom corner of the page. Once, then again. The paper was too smooth, too new. It smelled like ink and ambition. He waited. I didn't look at him. "Leave it here," I said. "I'll look it over tonight." He hesitated. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" he asked. I smiled. "Of course. I just like to read everything slowly. Old habit." He stood. "Okay, sure. No rush. We trust you, obviously." They left the room. Vanessa didn't say goodbye. That night, I turned on the small lamp by my desk, pulled the curtains shut, set the papers in front of me, and opened the pencil drawer. I started at the top, read every line, marked margins, questioned phrasing, circled phrases like irrevocable authority and unified estate structure. The pen stayed capped. The pencil whispered instead. It took 2 hours. I didn't rush. When I finished, I slid the papers into the scanner, fed them through page by page, saved them under a name I wouldn't forget: Langley Transfer, unexecuted. I printed 2 full sets. One I placed in a new envelope. The other I folded, once slid between the pages of an old gardening book Roderick never touched. The envelope went into the red folder. I locked it in the firebox again. Then I reached for my phone, found the number. Martin Delgado, the lawyer who handled my husband's estate. We hadn't spoken since the last amendment in 2015. I pressed call. It rang once. I ended it. Not yet, but soon. The phone stayed on my lap, the light still on. In the hallway, I heard Roderick's voice. Low, confident. She'll sign it tomorrow. She's being careful, but it's done. Vanessa laughed. She doesn't even know what it says. I stood. Placed the phone back on the charger. Turned off the lamp. I didn't sleep right away. I sat for a while just breathing, watching the red folder through the crack of the closet door. I poured coffee before anyone asked. Set the mugs down gently. Warm just how they liked it. Roderick looked surprised. You're up early. I couldn't sleep, I said. Thought I'd get started on the documents. I'll sign everything soon. Vanessa's eyes flicked up. Oh, I smiled. You've both been patient. I know I've dragged things out. Roderick leaned back in his chair, relaxed. No worries, Mom. We just want what's best for you, Vanessa added. It'll be easier for everyone once things are in one place. I nodded. Of course. The room settled. Coffee steamed. Toast popped up. I served it without a word. Vanessa took hers with the corner burnt. Roderick added too much butter like always. They were comfortable. I could feel it in the way they sat, the ease in their voices. Later, Vanessa paced the hallway with her phone pressed to her cheek. I cleaned the kitchen, slow and steady, one plate at a time. She's finally giving up, Vanessa said, laughing. I almost feel bad. Almost. A pause. Then, yes, I'm sure. She even offered coffee. You should have seen her face, like she was relieved. I scrubbed the sink, rinsed, dried, wiped the counter. My eyes never left hers through the doorway. She didn't notice. She was too busy listing square footage, guest rooms. Once she's out, she whispered, we'll redo the floors. No more of that awful green tile. I bent down, opened the drawer beneath the stove, tucked the small recorder deeper inside. Its light blinked steady and red. I left my phone charging nearby, the screen still on. Call active. Vanessa walked by without looking, still talking. We'll Airbnb it or maybe flip. The market's great right now. Roderick's voice called from upstairs. Hey, check if she's seen the updated transfer draft. I will, she yelled back. Then lower into the phone. Doesn't matter. She's folding. Old people hate conflict. She passed again. I was wiping the same corner of the counter. My hand moved in circles, quiet and constant. I didn't blink. That night, after they went to bed, I unlocked the drawer, retrieved the recorder, plugged it into the laptop I hadn't touched in months. The file was clear, her voice crisp, every word sharp. I saved it, renamed it Langley, consent recording number 4. Then I opened the folder with the trust copies, slid the flash drive into the same envelope. Upstairs, they laughed at something on TV. I stayed seated, kept the screen open, let the audio play once more, slowly. Then I hit stop, closed the laptop, sat in silence. Tomorrow I'd make another call. The laugh came first, sharp, confident, unfiltered. Vanessa's voice carried down the hallway, while I stood at the counter with a mug in my hand. She thinks we're keeping the car in her name, she said loud enough to hear every word. It's already switched. Dumb old lady. I didn't turn around. I stirred my coffee once. Slow. The spoon tapped the side of the mug. I lifted it, felt the heat on my palm, then set it back down without drinking. My hand didn't shake. Vanessa kept talking. Roderick handled it. She signed something months ago and didn't even realize what it meant. A pause. Then laughter again. I wiped the counter where nothing had spilled. My eyes stayed on the reflection in the window. I could see her pacing phone pressed to her ear, barefoot, careless. She still thinks she's in control, Vanessa said. It's almost cute. The call ended. Footsteps moved away. A door closed upstairs. I stood there for a moment longer. Then I reached for my laptop. The kitchen chair scraped softly as I sat. I opened the browser, typed in the state DMV site, logged in with the same credentials I'd used for years. Vehicle registration, owner history, VIN. The screen loaded slowly. Then the record appeared. Owner Roderick Langley. Transfer date 6 months ago. My name listed below as prior holder. I stared at the screen, counted my breaths. 1, 2, 3. The coffee cooled beside me. I didn't touch it. I clicked. Download. Saved the PDF, then printed it. The printer hummed steady and obedient. 3 copies. I laid them out on the table, aligned the edges, folded each one carefully, slid them into 3 separate envelopes. On the first, I wrote 1. On the second, 2. On the third, 3. I sealed them, pressed the flaps flat with my thumb. Outside, a car passed. Somewhere down the street, a lawnmower started. I stood and walked to the hallway cabinet, opened it, slid envelope 1 behind the old photo albums. Envelope 2 went into my sewing box beneath a tangle of thread. Envelope 3 stayed in my purse. Vanessa came down the stairs, stretching. "You still haven't signed the papers," she said lightly. "I will," I replied. She smiled, satisfied, and went to the fridge. I picked up the mug again, took 1 small sip, set it down. Later that evening, I added the DMV file to the red folder, placed it beside the trust copies and the audio drive. The folder felt heavier now, not with paper, but with certainty. I closed it, locked it away, then reached for my phone and opened my calendar, circling the date of the final hearing. I signed the last page without hesitation. The pen moved steady. No tremble, no pause. Roderick leaned back, smiling wide. Vanessa touched his arm, her lips pressed into a smug little curve. Across the room, their lawyer gathered the documents with a practiced flick. "That concludes everything," he said. "Thank you, Mrs. Langley." I nodded once, said nothing. The clerk asked, "Are all parties satisfied?" Roderick's voice came quick. "Yes, absolutely. This gives everyone what they need. It's been a hard year." His lawyer chuckled. "We're just grateful she was willing to be so generous." I folded my hands in my lap, didn't smile, didn't blink. My lawyer, Mr. Delgado, had been quiet until then. He reached into his briefcase without a word, slid a red folder across the table, opened it. "Your Honor," he said, voice low and firm. "Before we move to close, we'd like to submit supplemental documents for the court record." Roderick's head tilted. Vanessa frowned. "These include a copy of the original deed. Mr. Delgado continued a revised trust agreement from last month and evidence of property transfer already filed with the county." The judge looked up. "Filed already?" Mr. Delgado nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. The house, vehicle, and cafe assets were placed into a private protective trust, signed and notarized weeks ago." Roderick's smile faded. Vanessa leaned forward, eyes sharp now. Delgado added, "We also have recordings, copies of previous drafts, and proof of intent that clarify my client's legal standing. The documents signed here today have no bearing on assets she no longer legally owns." The room shifted. Chairs creaked. Paper stopped moving. Roderick's lawyer opened his mouth, then closed it. He flipped through the signed agreement again, flipping faster now. Delgado placed one last paper on top of the stack. And here is the county recorder's confirmation, time-stamped and sealed. The judge took it, read, then looked directly at Roderick. You didn't verify ownership before filing these motions. Roderick's lawyer swallowed hard. We were led to believe. The judge cut him off. Belief is not documentation, counselor. Roderick turned to me, eyes wide now. Mom? I didn't answer. I kept my hands folded, breathing slow, steady. Vanessa reached forward. Wait, what does that mean? Her voice cracked. She looked at their lawyer. You said it was hers. You said we had this. He held up a hand, silent. The judge set down the folder. The court will recess to review this submission. Further action may follow. Roderick stood too fast. Papers fell. He didn't pick them up. Vanessa's face drained of color. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. I rose, picked up my purse, nodded to Mr. Delgado. As I stepped out of the courtroom, the red folder still lay open on the table behind me. I changed the locks before sunrise. The locksmith arrived just after 5. No questions, just work. I paid in cash. Tipped in cash. By 6, the old keys were useless. I brewed coffee slow, strong. Let it sit while the sky shifted from gray to gray-blue. The rain started light, tapped on the window in steady rhythm. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't move much. Just sat at the kitchen table, mug in hand, steam rising. The red folder sat beside me, unopened, sealed, visible. By 8, their car pulled into the driveway. Vanessa got out first. She carried 2 shopping bags and wore that impatient stride I'd seen 100 times. Roderick followed. Phone in one hand, keys in the other. I didn't get up. From the window, I saw him try the door. Jiggle. Turn. Stop. Try again. Then his head jerked up. He read the notice. Property ownership transferred Langley Trust. Entry without legal authorization is a criminal offense. Vanessa stepped closer, squinted, read it twice. Her mouth moved, cursing something. Roderick's hand went to his phone. He looked toward the window, saw me sitting there. I lifted the mug, didn't sip. Just let the warmth rest in my hands. Vanessa pointed. She's right there. She's sitting inside. What is this? Roderick knocked, once, then again harder. I didn't stand. Rain fell harder. His knocking paused. I watched without blinking. The red folder sat in plain view beside the salt shaker. They could see it if they looked. He knocked a 3rd time. His voice rose. Mom, open the door. Vanessa's tone turned sharp. This is illegal. She can't do this. I didn't move. He called someone, paced in front of the porch. I heard nothing from where I sat, just saw his mouth moving fast, his hands slicing the air. I sipped my coffee. The taste was strong, bitter, clean. He hung up. Knocked again, slower this time. Inside the house was warm, dry, still mine. Vanessa walked back to the car furious, slammed the door. Roderick lingered longer, stared through the glass. I stared back. Not a word, not a wave. Just silence between us. Eventually, he left. Tires spun against wet pavement. The rain softened. I refilled my mug, then folded the red folder and placed it in the drawer beneath the coffee spoons. It made no sound when it closed. I boiled the water myself, measured the grounds, watched them bloom dark and rich the way I liked. No one was watching. No one was waiting. I poured slow. The stream hit the base of the mug, the same mug from that brunch. Clean now. No stain. No apology owed. I lifted it with both hands. My fingers didn't tremble. The first drop didn't spill. I sat at the kitchen table. No rush. The rain had passed sometime before dawn, leaving the air still and cool. The window stayed open a crack. A breeze touched my cheek. I didn't move to close it. On the table, nothing. No folder, no documents, no recorder. I didn't need them anymore. No calls to make, no meetings to prepare for. Just coffee. And quiet. Somewhere down the block, shoes hit. Pavement, quick, retreating steps. A voice barked something too distant to make out. Then silence again. I let the steam rise and curl. Let it brush the lines beneath my eyes. The door was still locked. The notice still taped. But I didn't check. I didn't need to check. I took a sip, let it sit in my mouth. Swallowed slow. The taste held steady. I stayed at the table a while. Not waiting, not watching, just breathing. The house held still with me. Not empty, just quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't ache. I ran a finger along the rim of the mug, let it rest there. The chair didn't creak beneath me. The floor didn't shift. No one burst in. No voice demanded anything. Outside, a car door slammed. Then another. More footsteps. Then the sound of tires rolling away. I didn't stand. I didn't turn. The mug stayed warm between my palms. I took another sip. Steam lifted, and I stayed.